I always hated corporate galas. The fake smiles, the clinking glasses, the way everyone dressed up like royalty for a night while pretending they weren't stabbing each other in the back Monday through Friday. But Melissa, my wife, insisted I come with her to her firm's annual awards dinner. It was supposed to be her big night. A promotion to senior manager after years of grinding. I put on the same suit I'd worn to too many weddings and funerals, and we drove downtown. Melissa looked stunning in a black dress that clung like it was sewn onto her. She had that glow she used to get on our anniversaries. Except this time, I had a sick feeling it wasn't for me. When we walked into the hotel ballroom, I instantly felt out of place. The room was full of consultants, lawyers, people who probably never swung a hammer in their lives. I wasn't one of them. I was just her plus one, the construction guy husband who didn't know the difference between an EBITDA and an NDA. And then he appeared. Ryan, mid-30s, tailored suit, smug smile plastered across his face. The man I'd already suspected was more than just a mentor to Melissa. He strolled toward us like he owned the entire ballroom. When she introduced us, he didn't even bother to shake my hand. Just gave me that little nod, the kind you give a valet. "Dean," he said, voice dripping with condescension. "Melissa's told me about you." I met his eyes, steady. "Funny, she hasn't told me much about you." Melissa laughed nervously, but Ryan didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned close enough that only I could hear. "You don't belong here. This is her world now. Best thing you can do is step aside quietly." The audacity almost made me laugh. Here was this corporate predator puffing his chest at me, in the middle of a hotel ballroom, thinking he could scare me off like I was some timid kid. But I didn't rise to it. Not yet. I smiled, leaned in, and whispered back, "You have no idea what's coming." Because what Ryan didn't know, and what Melissa had no clue about, was that I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks. I already had the evidence. I already had the plan. And while he thought he was establishing dominance in front of 100 coworkers, he had no idea the wrecking ball was already swinging toward him. At dinner, I sat silent, my fork moving across the plate, though I barely tasted the food. My eyes stayed locked on Melissa and Ryan. Every time the MC mentioned her name, Ryan clapped a little louder than anyone else. Every time she smiled at the crowd, his eyes lingered on her like she belonged to him. He wasn't hiding it. He was claiming her. And Melissa, my wife, didn't pull away. That was the moment something inside me shifted. My stomach knotted, my chest burned, but my mind sharpened. I wasn't going to beg or plead or fight him on his terms. He thought he was the wolf in this story. What he didn't realize was that I'd already set the trap. Because while tonight was Melissa's big promotion, it was also the night everything changed, for her, for Ryan, and for me. The awards wrapped up with polite applause, champagne flutes raised in honor of the firm's new golden children. Melissa's name was called, her promotion announced, and the entire room clapped like they'd just watched her cure cancer. I clapped too, because that's what a husband does, even if he knows the smile on his wife's face isn't for him anymore. Ryan clapped the loudest. When the ceremony ended and everyone began to mingle, I noticed Ryan slipping in beside her. His hand rested a little too comfortably on the small of her back. Melissa didn't move it, didn't shrug him off, just accepted it like it was natural. "Dean," Ryan said loudly enough for the surrounding crowd to hear, "you must be proud of her. She's finally stepping into the kind of life she deserves." The smugness in his tone was deliberate. He wanted witnesses. He wanted me humiliated in front of her peers. "I am proud," I said evenly, raising my glass. "She's worked hard, sacrificed a lot." I let my eyes linger on Melissa, some things more than others. Her cheeks flushed, guilt or anger, I couldn't tell. Ryan just smirked, like he'd scored a point in a game only he thought we were playing. He leaned closer, voice low again. That predator's whisper. "You're just a placeholder, Dean. She's outgrown you. Men like us, we take what we want." I studied him. His cologne reeked of money and insecurity. His jaw tightened like he half expected me to swing, to cause a scene he could spin against me. Instead, I smiled. "Men like you always think you're wolves. But the thing about wolves?" I leaned closer, my voice a calm blade. "They never see the hunter until the arrow's already in their chest." He blinked, caught off guard. I didn't give him time to respond. I walked away and headed to the bar. Bourbon neat, hands steady, because this wasn't a battle I'd fight with fists. See, Ryan thought tonight was his moment of triumph. He thought he was cornering me, proving I didn't belong in Melissa's shiny new world. But what he didn't realize was that I'd been building my own case for months. Late-night client meetings, random hotel charges, those perfume-scented blouses she'd shoved into the laundry basket, hoping I wouldn't notice. I had receipts, emails, photos, more than enough to prove Melissa's betrayal. And Ryan? He wasn't just sloppy, he was reckless. Married with kids, juggling multiple affairs, leaving trails wide enough a blind man could follow. He was about to learn that survival of the fittest doesn't always mean loudest in the room. Sometimes it means the man who waits, who measures twice and cuts once. Melissa found me at the bar, her heels clicking like gunshots across the polished floor. "Dean," she hissed under her breath. "What are you doing? You're embarrassing me." I turned to her, calm as ever. "Am I? Or are you just worried people might start asking questions you don't want to answer?" Her eyes flickered, fear, then defiance. "Don't you dare start something here." "Too late," I said softly. "It already started months ago." Ryan rejoined us, grinning, draping an arm across her shoulders like she was already his wife. "Come on, Dean. Don't take it so hard. You know how these things go. Survival of the fittest." I raised my glass, looking him dead in the eye. "You're right, Ryan. But remember this, sometimes the fittest isn't the loudest. Sometimes it's the one who knows exactly when to strike." He laughed, dismissive, but I saw the flicker in his eyes. Doubt. That was enough for tonight. Because tomorrow, the game would shift. And for the first time, Ryan would realize he wasn't the wolf. He was the prey. The drive home after the gala was suffocating, the kind of silence that presses down on your chest. Melissa stared out the passenger window, arms folded, her reflection flickering in the glass with every passing streetlight. I didn't say a word, just let the quiet stretch until it snapped. "You were out of line tonight," she finally spat. I kept my eyes on the road. "Out of line? For what? Refusing to grovel in front of your boss." Her head whipped toward me, eyes blazing. "Ryan is not just my boss, Dean. He's a mentor. He's helped me more in 2 years than you ever could. He believes in me." I let out a low laugh, humorless. "Yeah, I'm sure he believes in you. Believes in you so much he thinks it's appropriate to rest his hand on your back in front of 200 people. Melissa bristled. "You're twisting everything. That's just how he is, friendly, confident. Not everything is some big conspiracy." I glanced at her, jaw tight. "Friendly? He told me to step aside. Said men like him take what they want. That's not confidence, Melissa. That's arrogance." Her eyes narrowed. "Maybe you misheard. Ryan wouldn't say that." "Oh, I heard him loud and clear." She scoffed, shaking her head. "You just don't get it, do you? He's successful, respected. He's going places, and he wants me to go with him. That's not arrogance. That's ambition. Something you wouldn't understand." Her words hit harder than I expected, but I stayed calm. "So that's how you see me? Some roadblock in the way of your shiny new future with Ryan?" Melissa didn't answer. She turned back to the window, her silence an admission louder than any words. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally spoke, her voice softer but sharper somehow. "Ryan's not the villain here. He's the kind of man who steps up, who knows how to take charge. Maybe you could learn something from him instead of trying to tear him down." I killed the engine and faced her. "Melissa, he's not the savior you think he is. He's a predator, and you're exactly the kind of woman he targets. Smart, ambitious, craving recognition. He's using you." She spun on me, fury flashing across her face. "No, Dean, you're the one using me. You've been comfortable letting me play second fiddle in this marriage while you hammer nails and drink beer with your buddies. Ryan sees me. He respects me. You can't stand that." Her defense of him was so fierce, so blind, that for the first time, I realized she wasn't just slipping away, she was already gone. Inside, she stomped upstairs without another word, leaving me alone in the kitchen. My phone buzzed on the counter. An unknown number. I opened it, already knowing who it was. "You crossed the line tonight. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Noon. Alone. Ryan." I stared at the message, then poured myself a drink. He wanted a showdown. He thought he could corner me, intimidate me into stepping aside. But Ryan didn't understand something Melissa clearly had forgotten. I don't scare easy. Tomorrow at noon, he'd find out exactly why. Ryan chose the cafe across from Melissa's office. Typical move for a guy like him. Public place, full of polished professionals on lunch breaks. He thought the setting tilted the table in his favor, that I'd be too careful to make a scene. I arrived 10 minutes early and took a corner seat where I could see the door. The place smelled like burnt espresso and fresh croissants, the hum of muted conversations filling the air. I stirred my coffee slowly, waiting. At exactly noon, he appeared. Loud suit, louder cologne, and that smug, effortless swagger of a man who thought the world bent for him. He spotted me, smirked, and strolled over like he owned the place. "Dean," he said, sliding into the chair without asking. "Appreciate you coming. I thought it was time we cleared the air." I said nothing, just let him talk. Predators always reveal more when they think they're in control. Ryan leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Melissa and I, what we have, it's real. She's moving up, and I'm right there with her. You can either step aside quietly, or things are going to get messy. And trust me, you don't want messy." There it was. The declaration. He wanted me to flinch, to show fear. Instead, I smiled faintly. "Messy? Funny you should say that. Because I've seen messy. Like when a married man racks up hotel bills under his company card. Or when late-night texts to 3 different women start circulating in HR. For the first time, his smirk faltered. Only for a second, but I saw it. "You're bluffing," he said, though his voice had lost a bit of its edge. I pulled my phone from my pocket and slid it across the table. On the screen was a photo, Ryan in a hotel lobby, arm wrapped around a woman who definitely wasn't Melissa. Timestamp and location clear as day. His face paled. His hand twitched like he wanted to snatch the phone, but he didn't dare. "That's just one," I said. "I've got more. Different women, different nights. Documented. Traceable. Not the kind of thing a company likes to see from their rising star." Ryan's jaw clenched, the mask slipping. "You think this scares me?" I leaned back, calm as ever. "Not at all. You don't scare me, Ryan. But you should be scared of me. Because you might be playing king of the hill at the office, but I've already built the avalanche that'll bury you." He stared at me, eyes calculating, searching for a way back into control. "Melissa won't believe you," he finally muttered. I chuckled. "She already does. She just doesn't want to admit it." That hit him. I saw the flicker of uncertainty, the seed of doubt I wanted planted. He stood abruptly, straightening his tie, trying to recover his bravado. "This isn't over." "No," I agreed, standing too. "It's just beginning. And when it ends, Ryan, you won't just lose her. You'll lose everything." He stormed out of the cafe, leaving the scent of his cologne and desperation in the air. I sat back down, finishing my coffee, calm as ever. Because the truth was, Ryan wasn't the real problem anymore. Melissa was. She wasn't some innocent bystander caught in his orbit. She'd chosen him, defended him, believed in him. And when I went home that night, I knew the hardest confrontation wasn't with Ryan. It was with the woman who still wore my ring while giving her loyalty to him. When I got home that evening, Melissa was already there. She was standing in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, scrolling her phone like she hadn't a care in the world. The picture of calm. "Hey," she said lightly, not even glancing up. "How was your day?" I dropped my keys on the counter. "Eventful." Her eyes flicked up then, curious, but not worried. "Work stuff?" I studied her for a long moment. She was too relaxed, too steady. Either she really didn't know Ryan had tried to mark his territory in that cafe, or she was so convinced of his invincibility that she thought I couldn't touch him. "I met Ryan for coffee," I said finally. Her hand froze mid-sip. A tiny pause, but enough. She lowered the glass slowly. "You what?" "He wanted to talk," I continued. "So I listened." Her face tightened. "Dean, you shouldn't. He told me you two are real. That I should step aside quietly, let him have what he wants." Melissa slammed her glass down harder than she meant to. "He wouldn't say that. You're twisting things again. He's not like that." I leaned against the counter, arms folded. "You think he's a knight in shining armor, don't you? The man who'll sweep you into some perfect life. But Melissa, knights don't check into hotels under false names with other women." Her expression cracked for the first time. Confusion, then denial. "You're lying." I pulled my phone from my pocket and tapped the screen. The photo I'd shown Ryan appeared, the hotel lobby, his arm wrapped around a woman who wasn't her. I held it up. "Lying? Or just showing you what you already don't want to see?" Melissa's face drained of color. She stared at the screen like it was a ghost. But then, slowly, her jaw set. "Even if that's true," she said, voice trembling but defiant, "it doesn't change what he is to me. He's building something. He has ambition, drive. You've been stuck in the same place for years, Dean. Ryan sees me. He pushes me to be more. And maybe that's what I need. Her words were meant to hurt, and they did. But beneath the sting, I felt something colder. Finality. You really believe he's the answer, don't you? I asked quietly. Yes. Her voice cracked, but she nodded. Ryan believes in me. You never did. I exhaled slowly, sliding the phone back into my pocket. Then you've made your choice. Melissa blinked, tears threatening, but held back. Dean, don't make this harder than it has to be. We can handle this like adults. We can. Like adults. I cut in. You mean quietly. So you can slip out of this marriage and into his arms without anyone knowing the truth. Without your coworkers realizing you didn't just fall in love, you were groomed. Without your family realizing you traded loyalty for ambition. Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent. I stepped closer, my voice steady, calm, deliberate. I'm not going to beg, Melissa. I'm not going to scream or fight for you. If Ryan is what you want, then go to him. But don't fool yourself into thinking he's your savior. Because the man you're defending? I leaned in. I already watched him flinch. Her eyes widened. I left her standing in the kitchen, glass still trembling in her hand. Upstairs, I heard her pacing the bedroom like a trapped animal. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like the one losing ground. Because Melissa thought she was choosing Ryan. She had no idea she was really choosing ruin. 2 weeks. That's all it took for Melissa to make her move. The morning started like any other, coffee dripping in the pot, the smell of sawdust still clinging to my work jacket. I was lacing my boots when she walked into the kitchen carrying a manila envelope like it weighed 100 pounds. She set it on the table between us and slid it across. Divorce papers. I stared at them for a long moment, then at her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even angry. Just resolved. I think this is best for both of us, she said quietly. Best. The word tasted like poison. She said it like she was doing me a favor, like gutting 15 years of marriage was some kind of mercy. Ryan put you up to this? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Her lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't make me do anything. He just opened my eyes. I deserve more than this life, Dean. More than a man who's content to swing hammers and drink cheap beer every Friday night. With him, I feel like I can be somebody. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Somebody's mistress, maybe. Her eyes flashed. You don't know him like I do. No, I said, pushing the envelope back toward her. I know him better than you do. And someday soon, you'll figure that out. But I didn't sign. Not then. I tucked the envelope under my arm, grabbed my keys, and left. I wasn't about to let her see how much it shook me, how it felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to my chest. That night, the silence of the house was unbearable. Her perfume still lingered in the bedroom. Her shoes still lined up neatly in the closet. But the papers sat on the table like a verdict. Final. I poured myself a drink, sat on the couch, and stared at the wall until the bottle was empty. The next morning, I made a decision. I signed. Not because I wanted to, but because clinging to someone who'd already chosen another man wasn't strength. It was weakness. The weeks that followed were a blur. Meetings with lawyers. Dividing assets. Melissa moving into a sleek condo downtown that Ryan had probably helped her pick out. I moved into a smaller place closer to the job site. Bare walls and boxes I never bothered unpacking. But in the middle of the wreckage, something unexpected happened. Jenna. She was a subcontractor I'd worked with years ago. Sharp, no nonsense. The kind of woman who didn't mince words or play games. We ran into each other at the supply store, both reaching for the same stack of plywood. She laughed when our hands bumped. I hadn't heard that sound in months. Light, unforced, alive. We grabbed coffee after, just to catch up. 1 cup turned into 3 hours of talking about everything from old job sites to the best barbecue joints in town. And for the first time since Melissa walked out, I felt something loosen in my chest. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was a reminder that maybe life wasn't over just because she'd chosen Ryan. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I thought. And that realization changed everything. Because while Melissa was busy chasing her new life with her boss, I was quietly starting to build one of my own. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, my life looked different. My little rental still smelled faintly of sawdust and old paint, but it felt lighter. I wasn't dragging chains anymore. Jenna and I had fallen into an easy rhythm. Lunch breaks that stretched too long, nights sitting on the porch with cold beer and warmer conversation. She wasn't a rebound. She was something steadier, something real. And then, one Thursday night, Melissa showed up. I'd just gotten back from dinner with Jenna. We were laughing about some half-baked DIY project when I spotted a figure sitting on my porch steps. Melissa. She stood when she saw us, her hair a mess, eyes rimmed red. Dean, she whispered, like my name might break her teeth. Jenna gave me a quick look, half question, half warning. I nodded, and she squeezed my arm before heading inside to give us space. Melissa's gaze followed her like a hawk. So that's her, she said bitterly. I crossed my arms. What do you want, Melissa? She stepped closer, wringing her hands. I made a mistake. Her voice cracked. Ryan isn't who I thought he was. He's cruel, Dean. Controlling. Everything had to be about him. His career, his image. If I disagreed, he'd remind me what he'd given up to be with me. I raised an eyebrow. Sounds like the knight in shining armor wasn't so shiny after all. She flinched. Please, don't. I know I don't deserve your sympathy. But I thought. She stopped herself, swallowed hard. I thought he loved me. Turns out I was just a prize, something to prove he could take whatever he wanted. I let her words hang in the night air. The old me would have jumped at this, desperate to believe she'd seen the error of her ways. But that man was gone. You left me for him, I said flatly. Defended him. Signed papers to build a life with him. And now that it's burning down, you come crawling back? Tears spilled down her cheeks. Dean, I was wrong. I see that now. You were steady, loyal, safe. Everything I needed but was too blind to appreciate. I don't want him. I want us again. Please. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it back. Melissa, I said, my voice steady. You chose ambition over loyalty. You chose him over me. And while you were making that choice, I was moving on. I'm not the man you left behind, and I'm not alone anymore. Her eyes flicked toward the front door where Jenna's silhouette moved in the kitchen. For a moment, her expression twisted, not just sorrow, but jealousy. Regret. You're really with her, she whispered, almost to herself. Yes, I said. And you know what? She doesn't see me as second best. She doesn't need me to be someone else. She just sees me. That's all I ever wanted. Melissa's shoulders shook as the truth hit. For the first time, I saw the fight drain out of her completely. She wasn't the ambitious, glowing woman from that gala anymore. She was just a broken figure standing in the shadow of her own choices. Goodbye, Melissa, I said softly, and walked back inside. Through the window, I saw her linger on the porch for a long minute before finally disappearing into the night. And just like that, the chapter closed. Not with shouting, not with revenge, just with silence. The porch light clicked off behind me as I shut the door, Melissa's footsteps fading down the street. For a long time, I just stood there in the quiet, staring at the empty space she'd left. A year ago, that emptiness would have gutted me. Now, it felt like air in my lungs. Jenna came back out of the kitchen, 2 beers in hand. She didn't ask questions, didn't pry, just handed me one and sat beside me on the couch. We listened to the faint hum of crickets through the open window. You okay? She asked finally. I nodded. For the first time in a long while. And it was true. Melissa's return hadn't rattled me. It had cemented something I already knew. She hadn't just left me for Ryan. She'd left herself. Chasing ambition, chasing validation, chasing some version of love that was more about power than partnership. When it all came crashing down, she looked back and saw me as the safe harbor she'd abandoned. But safe harbors don't stay empty forever. In the months after the divorce, I'd done a lot of thinking about the kind of man I'd been, the kind of husband I'd tried to be. I wasn't perfect. I worked long hours, came home tired, sometimes forgot anniversaries or let routine settle too deep into our lives. But I was loyal, solid, the kind of man who builds foundations, not castles in the air. Melissa wanted fireworks. I was the steady flame. And when she chased the fireworks, she got burned. The funny thing about being left is that you think it'll destroy you. And for a while, it did. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, wondering what I lacked, why I wasn't enough. But sitting there with Jenna, laughing over nothing, sharing quiet in a way that didn't feel heavy, I realized I hadn't been lacking. I'd just been giving the right parts of myself to the wrong person. Melissa would probably try to patch her life together again. Maybe with another man, maybe with another promotion. But me? I wasn't patching. I was rebuilding. With Jenna, things weren't about drama or power plays. She didn't need me to prove myself with grand gestures. She liked me showing up at her workshop with takeout after a long day. She laughed at my terrible dad jokes, even when I warned her they were coming. She didn't look at me like a placeholder. She looked at me like a choice. And that made all the difference. Some nights, when the house was quiet, I thought about Melissa. Not with longing, not with rage, just with a strange sort of pity. She'd traded something steady for something shiny, and shiny things don't last. But me? I'd lasted. That night, as Jenna leaned against me, beer bottle cold in my hand, I realized the story wasn't about Melissa leaving. It was about what I found after she was gone. She divorced me for her boss. Months later, she begged to come back. But by then, I wasn't alone anymore. And I never would be again.